Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Cars and Coffee. And we've got a good one today for you. And if you're a car guy that wants to learn more about cars, performance, and like all things kind of cool, you're in the right spot. I'm Kenny Brown, and over the next hour or so, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my extensive knowledge that I've built up over 40 years of building great cars and in professional motorsports. And today, well, we got a great episode today. We're going to talk about the big subject that we're going to talk about is comes from Rich O'Mara, and his question is, can you get a Kenny Brown Foxbody to match the performance of a Kenny Brown IRS Cobra? Great question, and I got a great answer. What else do we have today? We're going to talk more about the Speed Therapy Academy. If you really want to learn about this stuff, you need to think about, and actually I'm recommending you do the Speed Therapy Academy. Any of our graduates from the first one will tell you it's just an amazing experience, and the amount of information that I share is pretty significant. And I'm going to just demonstrate some of that with some of the questions. What I've done today for questions that we get from the Speed Therapy Society, I've kind of grouped them together in kind of a little sort of packaged them up so I can answer a whole bunch of questions sort of at the same time. And then, of course, remember, you can send your questions in live through the comments, and we'll get to them later in the episode. Oh, thumbs up. Let's get some thumbs up, and please share. We've got a number of people doing watch parties. If you know other guys or gals that you think could benefit from what I talk about here and really would like to learn more, please share, or like I say, start a watch party. Oh, by the way, I'm nice and fresh, ready to go after taking a weekend off last weekend. I was pretty pooped out from everything we had going on, the 5-day workshop, the 12/14 week Speed Therapy Academy, and of course all the Saturday morning Cars and Coffee. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm going down everybody knows I got my carry list. Let's see. Be sure to share, start a watch party, or simulcasting on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And if you missed any of our episodes, they're all there on YouTube. You can go back and watch all 30, how many? 37 of them. So we just keep trucking along. I got kind of a cool car in the shop I'm going to talk to you about here in a little bit. And as for the artwork, I'm going to keep this up for the month. And the reason is, I mean, it's a nice red GT40. It's the 1967. The name of the artwork is All American Victory by Nicholas Watts. He's one of my favorite guys. And I thought, hey, Nicholas, a red car that almost looks like a red sleigh. I thought we'd kind of keep that up for the month. So I just couldn't get past taking that down. And also, you might know the banner's in the way. You might. I'm going to show you guys some cool things next week. This is actually the carbon intake manifold off of a Roush Yates Daytona prototype engine, which we're actually updating for Roy because he had an incident. Somebody crashed into him, which kind of had an impact on his engine. So we're going through that, but I've got that intake manifold. I've also got my magnesium GT500 or FR 500 intake manifold that we've modified for racing, just like the original Daytona prototype engine. I'll do a little show and tell with them next week, because this week we're just really jam packed with cool stuff to talk about. These pages never turn well. It's right here for me, not to forget. If you're just joining us, I'm Kenny Brown. This is Cars and Coffee, and I'm going to share what I can of some pretty extensive knowledge in cars and from professional motorsports. I think I've won 7 national championships at the professional level racing Mustangs. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good accomplishment. So let's kind of get some updates. We're going to start after the first of the year. We're going to try to do some updates and some changes of newsletter to make it more interesting and share more information. So if you're not signed up for the newsletter, please sign up. And again, all these questions that I talk about come from the Speech Therapy Society Facebook group. Okay, got that right. Okay, so I'm going to get to, because we got a lot to talk about, kind of get right to this. So Richard Mara's question is, can a Kenny Brown Foxbody match the performance of a Kenny Brown IRS Cobra? That's a great question. So let's take a little deeper look at that. So what are we talking about? So if I were to do a, say how I do an Kenny Brown IRS Cobra 99 to 04, and if I was going to build a Foxbody, how I would build that Foxbody, so we can do a comparison of how the performance would be. Okay, first building a. Okay, this also this also in grouping some questions. Robert Gardner wanted to know about the 79 Fox street performance, suspension, and I guess it's like weight and power, but I kind of touch on that. And then Douglas had a 2003 Cobra, a little street, little track, and his question is IRS wheel hop and front suspension improving straight line grip while not compromising handling. Possible. It is possible, and in a big way. So let's get to let's talk about a Kenny Brown IRS Cobra. We're still building those, by the way. We're still supporting 9904 Cobras, and we're still building them in-house here. So starting at the front, it gets a front grip kit, which would be the K-member, tubular K-member, control arms, offset rack bushings to help the bump steer, and then, of course, Caster Plus to add caster. And anyways, with me for a while know that I really love caster in Mustang. So that would be at the front. Plus, I'd upgrade to, I've got a couple different brake choices that I would upgrade to. Certainly the Cobra brakes are not bad, but I would go to a 6-piston and some nice wheels. 19 by, either 18 or 19 by 9.5 or 10 in like a 285 tire all the way around. If it was under about 450 horsepower, above that, then I'd go to a little more tire bias in the back. Oh, speaking of the back, got to go underneath. Underneath, we would have the double cross subframe connector, the jacking rail, and the matrix brace. The jacking rail is just, if you don't have one, you need one. It welds to the pinch weld, and you can jack the car anywhere along that pinch weld. And what we do is usually put a mark where the center is, so you kind of jack the car up right where the center is, and put jack stands under there. It opens up the hole underneath the car. There's nothing worse than kind of laying down and sticking your head under and trying to work the jack until you find a spot to jack it up. This way, it's super easy. I mean, the jacking rail's there, and what I do is once we put the jack in the first time and jack it up so it touches the jacking rail, I put a piece of tape right at the edge of the car, so we don't even have to look under the car anymore. Just kind of put up the tape and jack it up. So anyway, that's the middle of the car, and that strengthens. That gives you a lot of chassis rigidity, which is super, super important. And we have an entire, we're going to call it chapter or emergent teaching session all about chassis and chassis torsional rigidity. And I actually go through a bunch of different. This is in the Speed Therapy Academy. Go through a bunch of different race car chassis and how you make them strong, which goes down to Ellis's question down here. He's got an AC Cobra replica he's building for autocross track days. He wants to know about frame modifications, adding torsional stiffness, and ideal suspension, and setting it up for endurance. Well, as far as torsional stiffness, without seeing what the actual car is, it makes it really hard for me to tell, but I can say torsional rigidity boils down to triangulation, wherever you can triangulate things. And as far as setting up for endurance, heavy duty, strength, and durability. I mean, that's what you're looking for. And you want to use just a really top quality part like rod ends. You want to use really good rod ends. As far as ideal suspension geometry, that's a really tough question, because I don't know what's on there for a suspension to start with. and nor do I know, what the points are for the where they are and what the geometry is, because geometry is kind of a really, really complex subject. Again, Speed Therapy Academy, we spend an entire immersion session. Did we do one or two on? I think we did two on geometry, didn't we?
I think we did 3 suspension and geometry.
Yeah, well, we had 3 suspension and geometry, and I really go into not only geometry, but for the guys that were in the first academy, they know that I actually share some of my secret geometry, which is why my cars will outhandle just about anything. And like it's all about geometry. So without knowing the car or what it was, it's really hard to tell. Certainly, if you want to look in deeper than that, you can set one of my 15-minute complimentary consults, and we can kind of talk through that. But yeah, suspension geometry is a big, big subject, and it's pretty complex. And that's why I spend so much time in the academy on that. Okay, so we're back to torsional rigidity. We want to get that the center of the chassis, so you're not using power to twist the car. The car twisting does not become a fifth on one suspension member, so we stabilize the center of the car. The rear suspension, the IRS, I mean that's where a lot of magic happens. We go through put all 4 progressions of the rear suspension in there. Level 1, which is the front torque brace, aluminum diff bushings, which also are like heat sinks, rear steer kit, which helps taking out the roll steer, not bump steer like some people think. And then we go to the tubular control arms and convert to a custom valve, coilover shocks, and also custom springs. Oh, I forgot in the front. In the front, we're going to have our custom built struts that Strange builds for me based off of my dynos, my shock dynos. And I pick the spring rates front and rear for the individual, for you, whatever your application is, and I'll figure out the best spring rate for it. Anyway, so we got the good struts in the front, and I can only get double adjustable in the front, so we typically don't run any bump in the front, just work off a rebound. And on the rear, I can get both single adjustable and double adjustable. And, a lot of times, unless you're really racing, like real racing, you really don't need double adjustables. But anyway, so we put on the tubular control arms, coilover shocks, and then the next phase, tubular upper control arms to drop some weight. And then where the magic happens, we take the whole rear IRS carrier and move all the suspension points to really improve pretty much improve the geometry as best we can within the OE architecture. Certainly some limitations, but we end up doing a pretty good job. We improve the camber gain, we improve the roll center migration, all this stuff, my guys from the academy know all about. So that pretty much wraps it. Also, what we do, the front suspension will take maybe 40 pounds off the car. Rear suspension takes maybe 40 pounds off the car. So, losing almost 100 pounds right out of the box. So, and then its engine, it just depends. Typically, unless it's a really serious car, we don't do a lot. We'll do like mid-length headers. I like them the best on those cars, and a good free-flowing exhaust, cold air intake, and a little bit of a tune. There's a lot of ways to add power beyond that with 4-valve motors. And then in the back, we're always going to run a 373 or 410, depending on the transmission, and a Torsen. Always run a Torsen in the back of the IRS car. So it's kind of like a really compressed nutshell. That's what a Kenny Brown Cobra would be. Of course, there's a lot more to it, but in the appreciation of time, I'm going to kind of condense it down, just to get an overview of what that car is. So if I'm going to build a Kenny Brown Fox, how would I do that? And how would it compare to the Kenny Brown Cobra? Okay, first, same suspension. The suspension we have for the SN95 is adaptable. It's not a straight bolt onto Fox, but it's adaptable. You have to cut some things and make some clearance, but it's not a big deal. So the whole front suspension will go on with the same struts. Spring rate might be different because the weight of the car, which I'll get to in a minute. in the back. I mean, I'd throw the live axle away and put an IRS in the back, same IRS. So, and then of course, can't forget our double cross subframe connectors, jacking rails, and matrix brace to add torsion rigidity. And the matrix brace, if you don't know, is first of all, the double cross subframe connector runs from front subframe to rear subframe, and the cross in the middle actually bolts to the seat. And that reduces the captured versus free span space, which makes it really rigid with not adding a whole lot of weight. You know, the jacking around the outside I talked about, the matrix brace actually kind of zigzags and puts three triangulations per side underneath the middle of the car, which adds an amazing amount of torsional rigidity. So underneath, the cars are going to be pretty much the same. I'll upgrade the brakes. To do that, though, on the Fox, we go to a 96 or newer front spindle. So we have the 5-lug, and also the 96 and newer front brake ducts will work in case it goes to a track. So, I mean, underneath the car, they're pretty much identical. But here's where the differences come in. The Cobra is going to weigh around 3,400 pounds, and this is just base weight, 3,400 pounds. The 92 Foxbody is around 3,100 pounds. So right away, the Fox is 300 pounds lighter. Now the 79, like Robert's, is about 2,700 pounds. So that's a whole lot of weight less. But they're also a lot flimsier. You do a lot of chassis work on those. So, and then the motor for the Cobra's got 320 from the factory, and the 92 Mustang would have 225. So we've got a power to weight ratio on the Cobra of 10.6, and the lower the power to weight ratio, the faster the car. The power to weight ratio on the Foxbody would be 13.7. So right away, now the Cobra has a big advantage. It's got a better power to weight ratio. However, if I'm building a Foxbody, I'm going to take the 5-liter that's in there, set it off in the corner of the garage, and I'm going to go just and pick up a Ford crate engine. The Ford Performance crate engine, just the 302, the base 302 crate engine is 340 horsepower, which all of a sudden that puts the Fox at a 9.4 to 1 power to weight ratio. Okay, so all of a sudden this Fox has gotten a lot quicker than the Cobra. So the Cobra is going to have to do some work to get to that 9.4. Now, if I'm really feeling frisky, I'll go for the crate engine that's a 347 at 360 horsepower. So that puts us up to 8.9 power to weight ratio. So this car is getting faster and faster. But then if I want to really, really stick it to everybody, I'll go for the 363 crate engine at 507 horsepower, which is a 6.3 power to weight ratio, which is one blazingly fast car. So if I'm building them, I can actually make the Fox better, unless I go back to the Cobra and then do an improvement on the motor, like, go through and do the motor like we're doing a Roy's car. Roy's motor look pretty special. It's actually a Daytona prototype, Roush V8 Daytona prototype. It's special block, special everything, dry sump. And in fact, you can't even buy those blocks anymore, but they're super heavy duty racing block. What we had to do on Roy's because of clearance, and I'll talk about that next week with the intake, is we had to use my FR500. I have a set of prototype FR500 heads and intake manifold. But that, I mean, you can really get some power out of the four valves, 464 valves. So the question is, the core question: can a Kenny Brown Foxbody have the performance of a Kenny Brown IRS Cobra? Absolutely. Absolutely no reason that it can't. Same underpinnings go underneath it, and from that point on, it's just same underpinnings, brakes, wheels, tires, everything. So after that, it's just boils down to engine. What kind of engine you put into it. So that's kind of like the answer. the roundabout answer. But I think, you know, a Fox with the Cobra suspension underneath it, and then with that, you know, 500 horsepower, I think that'd be a pretty cool car. I think he'd surprise the hell out of a lot of people on track. So, okay, moving right along. I've got questions from, I'm getting hand signals.
I forgot about this car.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you about
You can do it later.
Chris's car. Chris's car is back in the shop for some updates. Actually, it's a GT500, and he's back for some updates. And one of the updates is the new rear suspension, which you'll be hearing about in weeks to come. But it's kind of a cool car. What it is actually it's kind of like a Kenny Brown Mustang on a crate. I mean, literally on a crate. We shipped Chris the entire suspension, brakes, wheels, tires, everything to build a Kenny Brown GT4 Mustang. And he shipped it to him down to North Carolina. And he had a shop, actually a Ford dealership, put it all together. And it's turned into a pretty wicked track day car. And he's got a lot of horsepower. And he came back up for the rear suspension and do some other updates, like, you know, putting in a roll cage. It's always handy, and better seats. And he's been with me a while. You know, I like good seats and good harnesses. Again, another subject for the Academy. In fact, we had Ben from Impact do a master class for the Academy just on safety harnesses and Hans and all that sort of thing. So we're upgrading that. And something we discovered is I looked at his front brakes, and the rotors were getting really, really hot. And, you know, the pads, I could look at the pads, and just by the coloration of pads, they were really, really hot. So we did a little investigation, and here we found that he had the brake ducts hooked up to some little tiny vents on the front, in the front lower grille, and they had actually come adrift, which meant there was very, very little air was getting back to, which explains why the brakes were getting so hot. And because it's a GT500 and they've got all that extra stuff in the front, it's really hard to do a proper set of brake ducts that, you know, come straight back. So we became pretty ingenious. We'll take some pictures and post them up of what we did. It's really cool. We've got some really cool brake ducts on this thing. We use NACA ducts mounted sideways and kind of just worked it right into the lower grille, so it just looks like it's part of it. So that's kind of what we're doing. Doing some other stuff too, I think.
Oh, we're doing aero
Oh yeah, we're upgrading the aero.
and the rear special suspension.
Rear special suspension, and we're doing some aero upgrades to give them, to make them not only a lot faster down the straightaway, but still have good grip. And I'm sure I'm missing something. Anyway, it's such a cool car because you know, the Kenny Brown Mustang on a crate. Actually, it was like two pallets that went down to him. So yeah, we'll take some pictures when we're done with the front ducts, and we'll post that up because it's pretty cool. You know, my guy Kurt was pretty clever on how he did that. So okay, let's get back to my questions. And this is the reason I'm putting all these together, is that you guys really need to consider the Speed Therapy Academy and like a 15-minute complimentary consult, because it's some of these questions that would be better if we did a one-on-one. But just gone down with Richard with a 12 Mustang GT California Special. He's looking for street performance. He wants to learn about lowering a Mustang, what are the suspension mods that need to be addressed, such as bump steer and rear suspension adjustment, and learn aero effects and handling on a street car and brake upgrades. Okay, well, first of all, for S197 Mustang, it couldn't be easier for suspension. If you go with my philosophy, I've got a completely engineered package. Actually, it's a solution. It's not a package. It's a solution. Everything works together. It's only three parts to my suspension: rear grip kit, front grip kit, springs and shocks. And as far as lowering, we use typically coilovers, which we can adjust the ride height. That lowers it. You want to know about bump steer. The bump steer correction is included in the front grip kit. And you want to know about adjusting the rear suspension. On mine, there's no adjustment. I mean, everything is pre-adjusted. I actually, what I'm guessing he's talking about is there's some axle brackets that have like multiple holes in them. My axle bracket has one hole. And that's because I spent a lot of time working out the side view geometry into the center, so I got the anti-spot I'm looking for. And between that and the upper control arm that's longer and pickup points moved, I mean, it just makes the back of the car hook up, just plain and simple. So there's no adjustment. In fact, even the control arms come pre-adjusted. The upper control and lower control are pre-adjusted. You just put it on and go. So that's pretty simple. And then brakes, we've got a number of brake upgrades just depending on what you want to do and what your budget is. But in the academy, you would learn all about why we lower the cars, what happens to the suspension when you lower a car, what happens to geometry when you lower a car. And then aero, we do a whole immersion session. I guess the classes, we call immersion sessions because I'll take a subject and we'll really go deep, do a deep dive and talk about it. And what's kind of cool is the academy is all done in Zoom, not like Facebook Live. It's in Zoom, so it's like everybody's there. And it's kind of like, when I look at my screen, it's like the Brady Bunch. I got all my guys there, and everybody's just like in a classroom. People ask questions while I'm talking. I mean, it's a pretty cool setup. A lot more personalized than this. And then I always, before we start the academy, I always spend at least a half an hour with somebody on the phone, learning about them, learning about their car, learning about what they want to learn. So it's pretty cool. And, oh, I keep forgetting all the cool stuff. You get this nifty shirt, Speed Therapy Academy polo shirt. And then you get Speed Therapy Guy notebook with like a bunch of divided sections in here. And you get things like tire sheets, car setup. Here, I can't see that. Car setup. We talk about car setup. And the reason there's a bunch of dividers is because every one of the sessions, there's like a PowerPoint that goes with it. And the sessions actually are recorded and they live in the resources for the Academy resources. So you have access to them for, like 6 months after the Academy. So you can go back and rewatch it. And plus all the presentations are on PowerPoint, and those PowerPoints are there so it can be downloaded. So you can actually download the session and put them in your notebook. That's the whole point of it. So yeah, Aero was really cool. I mean, everybody really loved the Aero part. And Jay, he's got a 19 GT 350, mostly street, some track, looking for full-time track Cobra. Oh yeah, I talked to Jay last week about George's 2001 Kenny Brown Cobra, Super Cobra. It's fully decked out. It's got big motor. I mean, it's 5.2 with all the good stuff, 700 horsepower, aero. It's an amazing car, and George is pretty much just giving it away because he wants a brand new Kenny Brown Mustang so bad he can taste it, because he wants that paddle shift is what he's looking for. So we're trying to help him sell that. I mean, it's an awesome car. And Cyril is Kenny Brown, and he has maybe well over $80,000 for the car. He's selling it for $38,500. So it's ridiculous. So anyway, I talked to Jay this week, but he wants to make himself a better driver and learn as much as he can. Make the car handle and be best it can make himself a better driver. I got that all mixed up. And learn as much as he can. The Academy, man. Here's the thing. I tell people to be a better driver, first you need a better car. If you've got a really good car, I mean, if a car that works, it handles, if you know how to set it up, it's so easy to drive. And the more comfortable it is, the more confidence you have, the quicker you go without even knowing you're going quicker. So, I mean, the first step to being a better driver is building a better car, making your car better. And again, we have, in fact, the driving part, we did 2 weeks on the driving part, where guys sent in well, first of all, I talked about my technique of driving, what I call a Mustang line, and the tricks that I use that, for an old guy, I'm pretty quick, and I don't even break a sweat. So I share a lot of my tricks on driving, and then what we did, the guy sent in videos, in-car videos on track, and I went through and critiqued them, and talked about what was good, where they can improve, and we actually got Joe Johnson has a GT350, and we went through one of his videos, and he was so excited afterwards. He can't wait to go back to that same track and apply what he learned. So, yeah, you want to learn. The academy is the only way to do it. What you learn now, you won't ever find anyplace else. So then, okay, moving down my list. Remember, you can send in questions. I don't know if I did mention it earlier. You can send in questions. I'll answer some questions live. So John with a 2008. Oh, this is kind of interesting. This is a 2008 G8 GT. G8 is the Pontiac GTO, which is actually an Australian Holden, I believe. They ship over here. Pretty cool cars. And I knew somebody that was racing one back when they first came out. He's got a fresh engine. He's looking for street performance and having some basic track. He wants to do some track days each year. He wants to learn about the basic driving techniques, brake, suspension, and what it'll take to get the car, get ready for a fun day at the track. I keep going back to this, why the Academy is so good. Even though we use the model car we use for the Academy is the S197 Mustang, because that's our biggest customer group. And there's so many things I do that kind of explain things that it's not everything I talk about can be applied to any car. If it's got wheels, tires, brakes, and suspension, what I go through, the principles, the theories, the geometry can be applied to any car. But again, I just told you about the driving techniques. We spend an entire session just on brakes, talking about brakes. And like I said, suspension and geometry was like 3 weeks. That was probably the most intense of all the things that we talked about. So even though you don't have a Mustang, I think you could get some really good value out of the Academy and getting ready for the track. Yeah, getting ready for the track. I mean, I go through the whole process of what you need to do to get the car ready. When you get to the track, how you set your pit up, how you get ready, and then what you do the first session a day, how to get your car dialed in with like tire pressures and making adjustments. I mean, I go through the whole thing. And then actually I showed the guys some of my videos of me chasing down some really cool cars. I think the one that I liked the best was at Road America, where coming around turn 14, I was carrying so much mid-corner speed, I had to back out of the gas because I was going to run up the tailpipe of a Viper. And he finally got far enough out of the way, I got my foot back into it, and I carried so much more speed off the corner than he did. I just went down the straightaway, he never caught me. And then going into turn 5, there's a Porsche GT3 RS that I just blows people away. Just how hard and how deep I can go with the brakes. I mean, it's like I was way back going in turn 5, and by the time we got to the apex, I was in his trunk. And then coming out of carousel, I carry so much speed. The carousel just had to let me by. And that's just a 2012 Kenny Brown GT4 RS, naturally aspirated, cold air kit and exhaust, but everything's in the suspension. And that's what we taught in Cars and Coffee, in the workshop, and in the Academy. I really stress the fundamentals of building a car. And my 5 secrets are chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. And that you pay attention to that. And I can tell you, it will completely change your car and your whole attitude towards driving. So that's you can just imagine each one of those is at least one, sometimes two sessions in the Academy. So yeah, John, I mean, think about it. It would be a great learning opportunity for you. And Joe, Joe Charles. He's got a 2008. I don't quite understand. He said it's sold a 2008 convertible GT, but he wants to know how to avoid. I think he means tricks to avoid mistakes, maintenance schedule, and a build plan. Okay, build plan first. Set up a 15-minute complimentary 15-minute consult, and we can kind of talk through what you got, and I can offer up kind of a general build plan for you. It's all going to be around the basics: chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. 5 secrets. And maintenance schedule, it just kind of depends on the car. If it's a track car, it's a street car, the maintenance will be a little bit different for both, similar but different. For autocross and street, I mean, there's a way. Setting a car up between autocross and street is all about springs and shocks. Suspension geometry remains the same, whether it's a daily driver, a hot street car, a track day car, a race car. On my Mustang, S197 Mustangs, suspension, it never changes. It's exactly the same, the hard parts. The only thing that changes are springs and shocks and brakes, wheels, and tires. It makes the difference of going up the ladder. Obviously, as you go up, more performance, more spring, more shock, bigger brakes, bigger wheels and tires. So, yeah, if you want to talk about a build plan, I'm not sure what car, but certainly get yourself set up for a 15-minute consult. You guys have a link for the 15-minute consult things?
Bridget's on it.
Okay, go Bridget. And then, Ron Ford with a Mustang. Imagine a Ford with a Mustang. So he's got a 91 autocross on street driving, car setup, car control, braking. I really just need to learn to drive better. Okay, Ron, I hope you were listening to what I said before that. Your 91 Mustang GT, I told you how I would build a Kenny Brown Fox Mustang to be just a killer car. In autocross and street, I mean, that's just a matter of springs and shocks versus a track car. Setup, car control, braking, all that's covered in the Academy. And like I say, you really need to drive better. Before you can drive better, you have to have a better car. I mean, that's just the way it works. And then here's another one, Brian with an 18 Challenger Hellcat. I bet that's a lot of fun. He wants to do some drag autocross track days. Better car setup, better parts, better suspension, better driving. Here we are. I mean, it's like, even though you don't have a Mustang, Brian, I mean, you can pick up a lot because, like I say, if it's a car, what I talk about is applicable to anything. Now, the geometry for a Mustang would be different than like a G8. It's got an IRS in the back. It's got a strut in the front, though. I remember that because I tried to help the guys that were, I can't remember who was racing one. I tried to help them work out the front suspension geometry. So that's the questions that all came out of the Speed Therapy Society. And, based on my answers, I hope you guys can see that the Academy is, it is a learning opportunity you will never, ever see anywhere else. And what you come away with is let's just say priceless. Because I really, really talk about stuff that I don't talk about in Cars and Coffee, because some of it's proprietary. In fact, when we did the whole geometry thing, all the sessions are on PowerPoint, as I said, and they're all available for download, except the geometry one. The geometry one was not available for download because there's too many secrets in there, and all the guys are kind of sworn to secrecy. Because I really, I think I'm the best guy in the aftermarket for suspension geometry, and I do share some pretty proprietary secrets in there. So that's the only session they can't download is on the geometry. So I've run through my questions. Carrie's coming up with her computer, which means we have questions.
Yes, we do have questions.
Do we have any of our Academy guys out there today?
Yes. I'm just surprised how many just keep showing up. So yeah, we what I can see, and there may be more. Joe Johnson's there, Tim Allen, Cliff Glidden. I think Brian West is there.
Cliff, Cliff, we'll talk about Cliff's car in upcoming weeks. We're taking a 2008 Ford Racing FR 500S race car, and we're turning it into a 2011 spec FR 500 World Challenge car. And I'll talk about that in the upcoming weeks. The cool thing about that car is during the Mustang Challenge in 2009 and 10, I engineered Speedworks, we're based in Indianapolis here, and they had I engineered their 3 Mustangs for the Mustang Challenge series. And, it's kind of like, that's sort of, I don't know if it's fate or weird or just whatever, but we found out that Cliff actually has number 44. That's one of the 3 cars I engineered in 2008, 2009, 2010. So that's kind of cool. Seeing it again and being able to really do to it what I would have loved to do back in 2009, but the rules were prohibitive. So that's kind of like, okay, we're going to make this thing fly.
And another person in here is Hurstifer too.
Hurstifer. Hurstifer just amazes me. Hurstifer is from Bulgaria. And for the academy, he got up at 2 o'clock every morning to attend the academy and never missed a one. So.
So anyway, I have a first question is from him. He left it in the Speed Therapy Society group. So here's a question. Wow.
Kill time.
I'm reading something else. My question is brake technique. Technical maybe, should we engage ABS when braking on track or just brake before ABS engagement?
Okay. My suggestion is ignore the ABS unless you get to the point where you're really standing on the nose of the car and things bumping back at you. I think what we talked about in the academy, my braking technique, I tell people to forget heel and toe. I know all the driving schools and track day schools that want to force you into heel and toe, and it's just every time I've been coaching in a car with somebody that tries to heel and toe, unless you're a real professional, it's all you do is just tie up your feet and you're focused on heel and toe, not your braking point, not your turn in, not your car set up for the turn. So I tell people, forget heel and toe. Focus on where the car is, where your turn-in point is, and where you get back to the gas. And it's just because the heel and toe thing goes all the way back to like the 70s and before, when, first of all, when cars didn't have synchros, and then race cars didn't have synchros, they went to dog rings, which are kind of like a synchro, but it's like you can just shift hard. And the thing is, they would have really close ratios in their gear spacing. And if they're heading into the corner, they might want to go down 3 gears, sometimes even 4. At that point, you need to do your heel and toe to go down all those gears. But for like Mustangs on track, it's like all I ever use is 3rd and 4th gear. And rarely will I get into 5th, but mostly just 3rd and 4th gear, because the revs on the Coyote motors. And I don't heel and toe. I mean, I have a braking technique that I share that is you can still save very quick, save rotors, save brake pads, and I just get into the corner much easier. You gotta do my secret braking technique into the corner, and then when braking down, and when you just give the throttle a blip, drop it into 3rd gear, and turn in and go into the corner. It's just super easy, and you're not fumbling with your feet all the time. So it's like I would just brake hard, and then you can probably start to figure out when the ABS is going to bark back at you, because if you have you get good tires and you're braking really hard, at some point you're going to come up on ABS. But I would forget it until it talks to you.
I just want to. We have so many loyal people that come every week. Fred Fancher, I think, has not missed one of your episodes yet. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. Just want to share some of the people where they're from. So Fred Fancher from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, just down the road.
Yeah. Dave Robinson from Niagara, the Canadian side of Niagara. I don't think he's missed an episode. Steve Smith from Colorado. Wendy Moritz is here all the time, and she's from the Philly area, I think. Brad, of course.
I think she's like maybe a little further south because she raises at Summit Point.
Okay.
Like maybe Virginia, Maryland.
Okay. Yeah, she's a good person. Brad, obviously, he's from Ormond Beach. Animus Farrow, I think he's from Texas or California. He doesn't say here. Joe Johnson, of course, from Humble, Texas. Jim Smith from Sheridan, Wyoming. James Donis from Seattle. Trey Smith is with us. Brian West from Clinton, Tennessee. I mean, there's all over the board. It's kind of fun to see everybody that's here. Joe Mills from Katy, Texas. So anyway, let me get back to some questions. John Cole is also with us today. And what is the stock caster for a 2004 Cobra? What is the ideal caster for a 100% street-driven car?
As much as it'll take.
Even for the street?
Even for the street. What caster does, when we're talking about caster, if you're looking at the car from the side, and this is the front up here, and this is your strut. If it's straight up and down, there's zero caster. If it tips forward, that's negative caster, and that's bad. If it tips backwards, that's positive caster, and that's good. Positive caster, I mean, I'm all the caster a Mustang will take no matter what, because it does a number of things. First of all, high-speed stability. You need caster for high-speed stability. And I can give you a really good example of that. You ever driving a shopping cart and one of the wheels just kind of wiggle like that? The reason it's wiggling because there's no caster in it. So you need caster for high-speed stability. And also, caster has effect on so many different things. It affects camera gain. It affects anti-dive. It just, I go through that whole thing in the academy, but doesn't matter if street car, track car, as much caster it will take. What year was this car?
I don't think he said. Let me go back to it.
That was like an SN95 maybe?
It's 2004 Cobra.
2004 Cobra, okay.
Yeah.
What I did for the Fox and the SN95 cars is because I always put in, maximum caster. And every time we got like caster camber plates, I just put a maximum caster and then adjust the camber. And I thought at one point, this is kind of silly. I don't do anything but maximum caster. And we did a little research, little project, and we discovered that if we eliminated the caster adjustment, I could get another half a degree of caster out of the camber plates. So my Fox and SN95, we call it Caster Plus top camber plates. All there is camber adjustment because it's tipped back as far as it'll go, so you get maximum caster. So I love, anybody's with me for a while knows how crazy I am about caster.
Another one of your preaching points.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Collins, he has a NASA AIX Foxbody. He just received the Kenny Brown IRS carrier. He'd like some instruction on setting up the rear. Right now he has a WaveTrack Griggs D8 coilover, currently 100-pound hypercoil. He has 335/30 Hoosier R7s, Griggs SLA front. He'd like to promote our products. I'm thinking that's a 15-minute, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, the what spring rate do you have in the back? That's
well, I don't know if this is in the back. It says double adjustable coilover, currently 1,000-pound hypercoil. It doesn't say if it's front or rear. I'm assuming that's front. We need a little more. Brian, if you're still with us, why don't you let us know and we'll.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of spring rate.
Yeah, let's Brian, listen what you're in front and rear, and then we'll get back to your question.
For a non-full racing slick like a Pirelli, that just sounds like a lot of spring rate.
He has a Hoosier R7s is what he's running.
Yeah, because those are DOT slicks.
Okay.
They're not like a Pirelli, like a Shrew racing slick.
And then Cliff says, Kenny's on song again. Love it when he's sharing in-depth knowledge. Thanks, Cliff. Rory Merrick, are you doing SVO or not? He has a Fox with an IRS.
Am I doing
SVOs?
SVO?
Yeah. SVO
oh, like Fox. The Fox SVO?
Yeah.
Sure. In fact, we had a friend of mine was looking to buy an SVO. It was supposed to be in pretty good shape, but And somehow the deal fell through, but we were planning on doing pretty much like I described earlier on. Build a Kenny Brown Fox that are going to do, the IRS in the back, the front suspension, and the chassis stuff. And then also we're looking at, I found some really cool engine upgrades for those cars that weren't too radical, that would make good power. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and the next question is from Joe Johnson. So I think this might be a setup question from Joe. We'll see. Knowing Joe. So Kenny, what do you think about putting a modern suspension on a 1970 Boss 302 Mustang? I love the body style.
Okay, Joe. Thanks for the setup. We've got in our plans, we kind of got sidetracked this year with all the COVID stuff. We've got a new rear suspension that's patent pending for SN95, and everybody that's in the academy already knows what it is. They got the first look at it, and then they got the first opportunity to put it on their cars, and just about all of them did it. Joe couldn't because he's got a GT350. And then the next after that, my next progression. After we got launched into market, then we're going to look at I did a prototype double wishbone for S197 back in 2004. That's been sitting on the shelf. I want to bring that out. That's at least a year-long development project. But the geometry is briefly. It started as a double wishbone bolt-on for S197. It was a joint project between myself and Ford Racing. Dan Davis lost a whole bunch of budget. He had to cut programs. He just said, "Here, why don't you take and finish it?" Which was new, just magic to me because it was no longer going to be a quasi-performance OE. It went straight to full-on performance racing. And I got together with Buddy Fay, a friend of mine, engineer par excellence. He's engineered just about everything. Won multiple Trans Am championships and other stuff. Actually, he was our last master class, and he went through the basics of data acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we got together and talked about the ultimate front suspension for a live axle car, which was, we felt at that point, the late 90s Trans Am cars. So we came up with a bolt-in double wishbone suspension that has kind of like this very close to the geometry of the late 90s Pratt & Miller Trans Am car and the Riley J car, Trans Am car. And it's all about the front geometry is all about the spindle. And I won't go into more of that. Anyway, that's the next project. Anyway, getting back to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
When that's done for the S197, the intent is to start putting those onto 69 and 70 Mustangs. And that's going to be our heritage car program, which we're now next year we'll kind of get back on track for getting that in place. But those are going to be some pretty cool cars. I mean, imagine a 69, 70 Mustang with a bolt-in 4-link in the back that has the same geometry as my current S197 with the new super duper rear suspension package, the double wishbone front that's based off a Trans Am car, and just oh God, there's gonna be cool cars. We're gonna drive like crazy. Big brakes, 19-inch wheels and tires. I'm one of multiple for the street. We have a couple of different 6-piston brake packages, front and rear, and for the track we have our Pro 4R race brakes that are amazing. We have the SN95 and S197. Something I worked very long and hard with Vera Bracing to come up with just the most amazing race brake setup that's comparable to like $8,000-9,000 brakes for a Mustang, but these are like $3,900, something like that. So anyway, we got these cars are going to be cool. The street, if we work with a brand new chassis for the 69 and 70s, if we work with a brand new chassis, we have to get a current emissions engine so that we can get a title license as a new car. If we work with an existing 6970, we don't have any emissions problems. And then, I'm wanting to drop one of these aluminum Windsor Motors that we've been working with for some of our other customers. Or what would be really cool is the like I talked about before, the 363. The 363 302 based engine, which would just kind of drop right in, and then put like 8-stack injection on it. I think that'd be just about as cool as it could be. Kind of mirror the FIA cars, Mustangs of that era. So yeah, I mean it's all there. It's just a matter we need to start looking to pull that program together next year.
Mm-hmm. Calvin Gorian is with us too. He's here almost every week. Remember old Calvin?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say old. He's young. So, well, getting older, I'm sure, Calvin. But anyway, Calvin used to work for us years ago and actually started up our website. Wendy has some questions. She said she'd really like to see the parts for the brake ducts. I'm wondering, because of time, if you should maybe cover that next week. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
They're all packaged up, and I'd have
yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we can talk about brake ducts next week.
And then she also wanted to know about the new top secret part, which I think you
Coming.
already covered.
It's coming. It's what I wanted to do is I wanted to get the first. We're doing a first batch of 10, which are going exclusively to kind of friends and family type thing. We're doing everything in stages because I don't want to. There's like there's a lot of pieces, a lot of machine pieces, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to get through and do a lot of 10, have them on our close friends' cars and get some feedback. Because what we're running into, there's a frame that's involved that bolts on the back. And because we're using existing hard points on the chassis, what we're running into, we've tried the frame mechanism on 4 different cars, and it hasn't fit any two the same. It's not off by much. I mean, it's off here and there by maybe a 1/16th, an 1/8 of an inch, but I want it to be a true bolt-in. So we're trying to come up with compromises, and I think we sort of got that right now. Because I mean, yeah, we're pretty amazed at how much variance there is from car to car. And I mean, we're not talking big numbers, just talking like little bitty numbers. But even so, if you're looking to put a bolt through a hole and it's off by that much, the bolt won't go. So we think we've got that. We're going to build our first real one next week. Do a test fit on that, and if that looks good, then we're going to build 10. And then we're about in the middle of building that 10. Then I'll do just a special secret event just for the Speed Therapy Society people.
So join that.
Yeah, and then I won't be introducing it to the general public till well after the first of the year. So it's coming. I just, it's nothing. I mean, I've been working on this for, when I talk about it, you find out how long I've been working on this for. But it's pretty amazing.
Okay, and Wendy has another question, but I'm going down my list so I don't get lost in all the comments. The next one. Oh, Tim Allen said he got a certificate and decals from the Speed Therapy Academy yesterday. So he thanked us for that.
Yeah, we got we kind of got behind because of the workshop, but we just sent out this week all the graduates.
Mm-hmm.
They got their certificate of completion and a nice little frame, and they got a whole sheet of stickers like decals like that. So it's all part of the deal.
Okay, and then Jesse Morgan, I think you used to work with him at Ford Racing. It's been a long time since I've seen Kenny. Is that correct? Is that Jesse Morgan? Do you remember?
Oh, Jesse, yeah. For performance.
Yeah, that's what I think that is. So
Jesse was kind of a go-to guy for information.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's still there. You haven't talked to him. Probably
well, it's been years and years.
Yeah. Also, Tim Allen says that the aero section of the Speed Therapy Academy was really neat. So many things I never considered. Can you tell us why we need to balance the car? Why can't we just put a big wing on the back?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, aero is all about balance.
And then we have a question from what? Where am I going? Brian received his certificate too. Wendy, into fitness when I did the Panhard part. Oh, Wendy said she ran into a small fitment issue when she did the Panhard bar, not 100% lineup.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're finding.
The cars are just.
Yeah, the cars. In fact, I could give you another example. For the SN95 cars, we did a rear shock tower brace because when we went to the coilovers, we're putting all the load of the shock and the spring into the shock towers in the back. So we did a rear shock tower brace for extra rigidity. We did initially a shock tower brace for the S197s, and we actually had to pull it out of production because we were getting calls. One person it's too tight, it wouldn't fit. The next guy, it was too loose, it wouldn't fit. So we're actually having to re-engineer that so it's adjustable, because I mean that's we're seeing what we saw at the shock tower brace, and we did a shock tower brace. We're seeing the exact same thing under the car. As far as the tolerances are surprisingly not that close. Yeah. So I mean, you wouldn't think that anymore with robots and lasers and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's like we try to get it as best we can, and it compromises many different cars. But what we're running into the S197s is, is little fitment things are off.
Okay, Wendy has another question. I would like to know what difference for turn-in handling 18/19-inch wheels or 1-inch taller wheel tire combo really make. I'd like to know what difference for turn-in and handling an 18/19-inch wheels or 1-inch taller wheel tire combo really make.
It depends on how much 1-inch tall. I can tell you on Mustangs, I like a tall tire. Just because the weight of the car and a taller tire gives you better launch off a corner. An example is in 2011, when the Mustangs first went into World Challenge, the SCCA mandated that they run I think it was a 245, 255, 640, which is a tiny small tire, because that's close to what production was. But Pirelli came back and said, whoa. I said, we're not going to do that. These cars need more tires. Ended up doing a 305 660 front and a 305 680 rear, which is, I do the math, somewhere around a 27-inch tall tire. 18 to 19s, if it's got a good tire, I don't think you'd notice a big difference on turn-in. It kind of depends on the tire compound and slip angle. We talked about slip angle on tires in the Academy. I just like, for 18-inch, I like race tires on 18-inch wheels, because that's where you get all the race tires on 18-inch wheels. And track tires are like 19. And I don't know. I mean, I have to really go do some back-to-back to give you a really solid, a real first-hand answer on that.
Okay, so this is the last call for any questions for today's episode 37. So for Kenny to answer your questions live. Steve Smith, we greeted him earlier. He's from Johnstown, and Roy Merrick, he is from Canada, British Columbia. So, and he can't, with the COVID stuff, he can't get a lot done. So he can't get across the border. Cliff Glynn mentioned that he loves hearing about his car and our plans for it. We share enthusiasm for old 44. It's going to be a driver. So we also have another 44 in here too.
Yeah, ironically, Chris's car showed up, the GT500. It's a track car, and on the side, he's got numbers as 44. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, so we have two number 44s in here. Tim Allen also said the best thing about the Academy is that you not only learn the fundamentals and breakdown of the Mustang and how it performs, but Kenny helps you apply all the tech to your car to help you make a better platform for what you want to do, So it is very individualized. And then one more, while I'm waiting for any more questions to come in, we had another interesting little comment here. Jay Meyer said, great program. He was able to sign up.
Okay.
So
you go, Jay. We're looking forward to seeing you. And I'm sure you're looking forward to getting your nifty polo shirt.
And Roy Merrick said, Bo Hamilton, let's see the 6970. He wants to see your 6970 Heritage cars. And here they put a link to the Heritage cars. Tom Nelson's from St. Louis. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in here that I have missed.
Yeah, I mean, that we're going to get that program back on track, obviously, next year when stuff settles down. But anybody that might be interested in getting involved in that program, just let us know. It's going to be pretty cool. And the other thing is, aside from the street cars, we're going to be doing Heritage Trans Am spec racers. Okay.
That's all you need to say.
Yep. Starting with brand new steel bodies and the suspension I talked about, the Pro 4R race brakes, World Challenge 305, 315 tires, and about 500 horsepower. And
actually, we have Bridget put a link into the Heritage Spec Races on the Kenny Brown page, but it will tell you a little secret for the Cars and Coffee people. There was a website that we put together for the Heritage cars and our other S550 cars called KennyBrownCars.com. So look that up if you want to find out more about the Heritage cars. Again, it's KennyBrownCars.com. A little bit different link than what Bridget put in. Bridget's link for Kenny Brown cars. Kenny Brown is just some
on the
brief
website.
Yeah, just brief information. But Kenny Brown Cars.
It's a micro site we put together.
It's pretty cool. Talks about the Heritage cars and the street cars. And that is it. That wraps up today. Next week we're talking about
next I'm doing a little show and tell with the racing intake manifolds, the Roush Yates Daytona prototype DP intake, and then the Ford FR 500 intake manifold we actually modified from its original configuration specifically for racing, and I'll talk about that. And that's pretty cool. That fits a four valve 4.6.
Okay, and that is it. We will see you next week, I guess.
Okay, well, that wraps it up for this week. Next week we'll talk about some brake ducts. I'll show the different parts of brake ducts and why my brake ducts. Show you that my brake ducts are different and tell you why my brake ducts are different and why they're so effective. I mean, my 3-inch brake ducts are every bit as effective as other people's 4-inch brake ducts and even more effective in ways that we'll talk about next week. So with that, I really appreciate everybody here. Thanks for coming. I hope you learned something. I mean, that's what I'm here for. Again, if you got any questions, send them into through the Speed Therapy Society because I talk about what you want to know about. So in fact, all these questions came right from the Speed Therapy Society. So if you've got more questions, send them in. If you want something more a little more personalized, schedule one of my complimentary 15-minute consults. It never seem to be 50 minutes when they're done, but then, yeah, and I'll be happy to talk to you about a myriad of things. If I can help you, I will. If I don't know the answer to something, I'll tell you that. I won't try to give you a BS answer. I mean, I might have like an engineering brain. I don't know how to BS very well. So that's kind of like me. So anyway, really appreciate you guys showing up today. And again, tell your neighbors and friends, send some links, send some thumbs up, and we will see you next Saturday morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So wherever you are, have a good day. Right here, it's a gorgeous day. The sun's shining, clear skies. It's going to be in the 40s for December. I'll take it. I'm not looking forward to winter. So, hey, we'll see you all next week.